Hi, and welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. Today we're going to have a look at today's Times crossword and concentrate on some of the issues in terms of knowledge. And there were a few, and they were just a few, but they were a very wide range of things that you needed to know something about. One down was quite a nice clue. Lawman put pressure on family involved in crime. Well, you see lawman and you start thinking about sheriffs and possibly attorneys and police constables and stuff like that. But forget that for the time being, and it's not going to be right. What you have to actually look at, family is a useful way to approach this, and you put a kin for family. That's about the most standard short synonym. Could be clan, but kin here works. P for pressure, that's always a standard abbreviation as well. So if you put P on top of kin inside a crime, one of the possibilities is Parkinson, and Parkinson wrote Parkinson's Law. So not the usual sort of lawman at all. That's pretty tricky as a clue. Now that's not necessarily needing the help, the knowledge that I was talking about, but one across definitely does, and this is kind of detailed dictionary knowledge, or possibly viticulture knowledge perhaps. So residue of apple and spice added to reduced size pot. Well, I interpreted correctly that reduced size would mean cut the last letter off something. And eventually, now that I've got the P in the grid, it occurred to me that PO was the reduced size pot, just pot itself cut down to PO. Now I'm aware that mace is a spice. I think most people might know that, but they probably don't know that pomace or pomace, I don't know how to pronounce it, is an apple residue, obviously from the French root pomme, but this is something that I think is used in either cider or some form of alcohol making or distillation, or possibly just the use of apples. Very useful word to know. And for 3 down, you needed to know your American slang, which doesn't often come up in the Times, but this turned out, took a while for me, as you can see in my solve, to work out how this was working, but eventually I did understand that restrict wild at the start of the clue. You have to lift and separate wild animals, separate them completely. You're not looking for wild animals, you're just looking for animals in parts of America, and then wild refers to restrict, makes it into an anagram, and the answer is critters. American, I suppose, based on creatures. So some of these clues, they really required sort of a width of knowledge, perhaps not a depth. Now 22 across, another one, moving though not new film, and the fact that though has been spelt in this unusual way is going to indicate very clearly that it's its letters that's important, not what it means. So moving there could well be an anagram indicator. Though not new gives you 9 letters, which is what you need to fill 2, 3, 4. And happily, I could immediately see that On the Town was a relevant film. Again, perhaps not everybody knows On the Town as a film, but I would have thought most people do. The courtier at 9 across was in fact Raleigh, who is almost just wasting time. That's a very neat phrase to say right without the letter T. And drinking, meaning putting in the middle, ale, which is the beer. 10 down was another nice long anagram. I report louche, suspect, is an anagram of I report louche, and works out as the elegant detective Hercule Poirot. Elegant both personally and as an answer. But I think I'm just going to fill in the across answers that helped with what I think was the hardest bit of knowledge in the puzzle. I mean, there were other bits that were helpful, but this was really fairly extreme general knowledge. And it's 18 down I'm going to be coming to in a moment. 18 down says, film making explosive, perhaps quoted for naval admiral. And even with the letters in place, this is not going to be something that most people are familiar with. I said film making explosive. It actually says firm making explosive, perhaps quoted for naval admiral. Now, quoted, as you might expect, is a homophone indicator. So we're looking for something that might mean a firm making explosive, and it's going to sound like the answer to the clue, which will be a naval admiral. So does this mean that you need to know some historic naval admiral? Well, yes, it actually does. Now, it doesn't normally when you see something that requires quite abstruse general knowledge. And this isn't Nelson, it's not Cornwallis. I could name 5 or 6 more famous admirals than Admiral Jellicoe, who sounds like he's a company making jelly, which is slang for gelignite. That's pretty hard, but one of the sources of information I highly recommend, not just for the information but also for the actual source, is the Hornblower novels, which cover a lot of old naval terminology and also some very good vocabulary words that are outside the Navy, but very occasionally the actual specific knowledge of various admirals and people from the past can become useful too. And I'd certainly come across Admiral Jellicoe in that. He's certainly not a main character, but I think he gets mentioned at some point. Perhaps he's in pub names occasionally. I don't think so, but certainly I was confident when I thought of the answer that it was right, even without really seeing the wordplay fully at first. But it didn't take long to confirm that was correct. As you'll see for myself, that was my last entry, and one that I thought, wow, that's really going to slow a lot of people up, because they're going to have to make some sort of guess. You might not know that jelly is a term for gelignite. Tough clue, tough answer. Well done if you got it. Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again soon on Cracking the Crypto. Bye now.